I call meeting to order. Mr. Warner, please take your roll. Reverend Childs.
Here.
Ms. Collins.
Here.
Trustee Kowitz. Ms. Jordan.
Here.
Ms. Lau. Here. Mr. Michael. Here. Mr. Chauncey is absent. Ms. Shear. Here. Mr. Spicer. Here. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. I forgot to ask you all to go green. We'll wait momentarily. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of collective bargaining under the Taylor Law. Matters leading to employment of particular individual or individuals and employment history of particular individual or individuals. And legal advice. So, Mr. Representative, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, we'll try to return to public session as close to 7 p.m. as possible. All right, and please go ready. Yes. Okay. We're beginning the public portion of the meeting. Returning from executive session, we have no resolutions coming out of executive, so we'll begin with public participation. And the only person signed up this evening is Mrs. Dunn. But before you take the mic, I will go through the policies affixed to the podium. 2 minutes. Our board clerk will let you know when you're approaching 2 minutes. We discuss not individual discipline records or personnel, but issues. And if you can't finish something you've prepared, please leave it for circle and disseminate it to all the trustees. So, having said that, Mrs. Dunn, you're first up.
Thank you. I'm Zoe Dunn. I am the parent of a wonderful first grader at George Washington. I had left a message last week regarding receiving an update on the search process for the George Washington principal job opening following Valerie Hennum's retirement this summer. Unfortunately, I didn't get a call back, so I'm here to ask for an update on the process. As a member of the GW community, I'd like to follow up on a few of the commitments that were made as part of the meeting that Dr. Padalino had with the parents and teachers on the evening of February 5th. First, since there was a willingness on the part of the administration to include parents, teachers, and the current principal in the candidate evaluation process, I'd just like to ask for an update on the timeline and the efforts made to date. We've noticed that there's no posting in the Center for Guided Montessori Studies newsletter, nor on the American Montessori Society or Association Montessori International USA job boards. I understand that the search date has been extended in an attempt to reach more candidates outside of our local area, so perhaps you can provide some insight. Second, respecting the privacy of the applicants, I'd like to ask for a sampling of qualifications from the shortlisted CVs that you receive. We would expect these to be blinded so that we can better understand what appeals to the administration from these candidates and perhaps reiterate qualities we feel are important in our principal. Third, I'm not sure how closely you've kept Val in the loop on the process, and we understand that you'd like to include her in the interview process. So we'd just like some confirmation that this is the course of action that you're continuing to take. And lastly, we had discussed a parent committee to help evaluate top candidates at some point from the screening process. And we just asked for clarity on when and how the committee will be formed. Thank you.
Just, I do have that as something that I'm addressing in my comments, in my superintendent's report, so I will.
Oh, all right, so we'll move on. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board at this point in time? Anyone else who would like to address the board? Okay, hearing no takers, we'll move on to the approval of minutes of March 6th. I'll entertain a motion.
So second.
Okay. Sorry. Any amendments or corrections to the minutes of March 6th? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes of March 6th, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. And with that, I will turn the floor over to Dr. Padalino with the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ms. Shear. Okay, just quickly, two things that I did want to touch on, and one that Ms. Dunn brought up was the search for the GW principal. I want to talk quickly about the search for the New Kingston High School principal. So we have those two positions that we are looking to fill. Obviously, both are very important positions in our district. Anytime we look for building leaders, they're important positions. Just to give a quick overview of the GW search right now, we did post locally. We did also post on several Montessori website, Montessori postings that actually were brought to us at that parent meeting. I don't know the names of them off the top of my head, but I did respond to the GW email that I received today from the GW website. I did, and I know I saw you guys. I was out last week, so I started to. I actually called one parent back, and then that email came up. Okay, I'll get everyone with this email. So I did reply to that email, and I intend to give another update middle of next week is what I reply on that email. So I will give you, and I have your statement here. So I'll address those in that update. But for right now, we did extend because a couple of publications, the Montessori publications, would allow us to extend until the 31st of March. So Friday really is probably our last one. We're hoping to get some candidates there. We did get some good candidates already. We're hoping to get some more from a broader area and start the interview process. And Dr. Valsella will be in charge of that. We'll move from there. So I'll respond Wednesday of next week or so. Okay. Kingston. Do I have a comment? Do I have a comment?
Yes.
I'm okay with that. I'm done. So, Kingston High School, as we all know, it's been very public, and we'll be accepting Mr. Reinhardt's resignation this evening. That we'll be looking for a new high school principal at Kingston High School. Ms. Bonville will be leading that process as we look. We'll be creating a posting, probably to put up early next week, end of this week, early next week. And we'll start the process. We're going to, again, similar to what I said about GW, we're going to look locally, but we're also going to cast our net of, in a wide way. Very important position, very big shoes to fill, and we'll see what we can find. And I hope we will find the right leader like we did last time.
Can't we deny his resignation?
I think
We're running to stay. Nobody wants to be leader.
No. But we do congratulate Mr. Reinhardt on accepting the position of being appointed to superintendent at Saugerties, and in some ways I find that to be a shot in the arm for the Kingston City School District, that other school districts would like to have some of our leaders leading their school districts. That's what happens. Also, the board has in front of you just a really a listing of our school calendar. It is not the school calendar where we had a little technical difficulty, which I think will be done by the end of the week. And then I will post a draft calendar up on our website. I know parents are very anxious to know what is going on with the calendar, and the things they really want to know is what's the first day of school. That's the calls I keep getting. What's the first day of school? What's the first day of school? So you do have a listing in front of you, just so you were informed, and like I said, a regular calendar will be up on the website in draft form for board approval on the 24th of April. To give you some ideas, the first day of school for everyone, parents, you can take your pens and paper out. The first day of school will be September 4th, and the last day of school for students will be the 25th of June. Graduation will be 26th of June. We have one of the other questions I keep getting, are we going to have 2 full weeks for Christmas? Because Christmas falls in that strange thing where we end Wednesday. We will have school the 2nd and 3rd, Thursday and Friday in January. We will not have a full 2-week break. This calendar will have 186 student days with 7 snow days, which is 179 student days. 4 superintendent conference days, which is 183, which puts us where we need to be as far as the regulations are concerned. And that's kind of just the highlights right now, but the whole calendar will be out by the end of the week, probably at the latest. And so usually it's not me talking very much in the superintendent's report. So now I will hand it off to our new building leader at John Kennedy Elementary School, Melissa Jameson.
Thank you. So I think I know almost everyone in this room, but for those of you I haven't met, my name is Melissa Jameson, and I'm the principal of John F. Kennedy Elementary School. I'm so excited to be here tonight to share some of the wonderful things that are taking place at JFK. I started on August 1st, and I started the year by meeting with a lot of teachers, staff members, parents, students, and really finding out what the goals they wanted to work on for the year. And the 3 goals that we picked are 3 things that the JFK community felt very strongly about, and 3 things that I feel very strongly about. So our first goal for this year was really focusing on staff collaboration to meet the needs of all students through culturally relevant and engaging curriculum. The second goal focuses on attendance and having students at school on time each and every day. And the third goal is about social emotional learning and helping to support students with things such as self-awareness, responsible decision-making, and most importantly, relationship skills. And one of the biggest things that we focused on so far this year at JFK is building relationships in the JFK community. This year we were designated by the state as a CSI school, and so we've begun to do the work entailed to not be a CSI school. And one of the things that this has brought to us is a state ed review visit that happens at the end of February. It was a 2.5-day visit that was incredibly informative that we went through, and they left us with 3 quick wins and 4 short-term priorities that I'd like to share with everyone today. So the first quick win is something that came directly from the teacher focus group, and it was for me to mandate common planning time for the teachers, which I was thrilled to do. So starting immediately after the visit, the teachers all let me know when they will be having their common planning time, where I've scheduled professional development. They'll be looking at student work together and really collaborating as a team. The second quick win came from the parents, and it is to post a demonstration video of a skill on the school website. So the March video is about plotting fractions on a line graph, which is a 3rd and 4th grade math skill that the students were struggling with and the parents would like some support with. And we're right now meeting as a school to pick the April video. And quick win 3 came directly from the students. So JFK had a walking club at one point, and due to staffing issues we stopped, and the students asked for us to bring it back. And so we immediately did after the visit. And now on AC and E days, we have a different staff member each day volunteer throughout the rest of the year to lead a walking club from 8:25 to 8:45 in the morning, where students can run, walk, skip, jump. We start our day together, and it's a really, really nice way to start the day. The short-term priorities given to us by the state, the first one was for me to give feedback once a month to 100% of the staff. So we're still in month 1 of that. The written feedback has been coming. I still have a few teachers left to hit, but March is not over yet. Short-term priority 2 was to identify 4 volunteer teachers who could act as experts in the school and lead professional development during those grade level meetings, during faculty conferences, and any time a teacher needs help. So one example would be one of our teachers here, Tracy, has been giving reading professional development and supporting teachers with reading. We've identified a 4th grade teacher who is doing exceptionally well on rigor and pacing, and she's been a go-to person in that area for staff members. Short-term priority 3 was for myself to collaborate with the district staff to identify benchmarks for all assessments, and that's an ongoing process. We've begun to identify benchmarks and share them with the staff, but we're still working on that, and we'll be rolling it out to the whole school in April. And short-term priority 4 was to identify students who have fallen in between 6 and 17 absences this year and try to reach them before they become chronically absent. This has been the hardest of the short-term priorities. We have about 145 students who fall in that 6 to 17 area. And some of the things we have done, I'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation, but really reaching out to those families specifically and trying to support them with the social worker and getting their children to school, and then rewarding the efforts that they're making in making attendance improvements. So not just celebrating perfect attendance, but also celebrating attendance improvement and attendance effort. We're really proud of our reading level growth that's taken place this year. I have a lot of data slides in here, but I'm going to go through them quickly because I know you guys will be hearing a lot about data after I'm done. So we're particularly proud of our kindergarten and 1st grade growth. So the yellow bars are the Q1 percentage of students who are reading on or above grade level, and the green bars are Q2 on or above grade level. So we're really proud of the students, the teachers in our amazing reading department, and the work that we're doing in this area. And we're also seeing significant growth in our STAR scores. So I'll quickly go through these slides, but it's the fall to winter assessment periods and how students' scale scores are moving. So these are reading and math. One other thing that came out of the state visit was to help encourage student accountability with the STAR testing. We had one teacher in particular who was having students fill out this My STAR scores sheet as soon as they finished the testing administration, where they're tracking their scale score, the level, and the amount of time they're spending taking the test. So this was only being done in one third grade class, but as of the May administration, it will be done across the entire school. Right now, as a school, JFK has been doing writing through journal writing and in core investigations, but we have switched to piloting writer's workshop in our first grade consultant class and our second grade consultant class to much success. So instructional coach Mike Searcy has been working closely with those two classes and helping them plan the writing periods, and we're really incredibly proud of the increase in creativity, the increase in writing stamina, and the love of writing that has bloomed out of those classes. So this is an example of a first grade opinion piece that a student wrote that really blew me away. And this is an example of a first grade personal narrative, just one page of the personal narrative. And I think you can really hear the voice in this piece, which was about McDonald's. I brought the food to the table, dipped my food in barbecue. They're really learning how to write with voice, they're really learning how to write with an audience, and the difference between the work in the writer workshop classes versus the non-writer workshop classes has been significant. So Mike Searcy is training the entire staff in the May faculty conference on rolling out writer's workshop in September, and we're switching to school-wide in September. So coming back to attendance, it's something we've been focusing on a lot. So one thing that we do at JFK is every classroom has a perfect attendance sign outside of their room where the teachers have one student mark if they have perfect attendance or not. One of the first grade teachers goes around and checks, and they announce all classes that have perfect attendance for the day on the announcements in the afternoon. And then that class gets a ribbon added to a bulletin board that's in the front lobby. So the students need to have arrived to school on time and have perfect attendance for an entire class to get a ribbon. We've partnered with both Stewart's and Pizza Hut to reward these classes. So they've provided coupons for ice cream and coupons for pizza, and when we found our students were unable to get to Stewart's and Pizza Hut to cash those in, the establishments were so kind as if to let us cash them in. So we have brought the coupons to Stewart's, and they provided an entire Sunday party for the most recent winners, which were a fourth grade class that chose to share with a kindergarten class that was a close behind, and Pizza Hut let us again pick up personal pizzas for every student. So one major switch based on the state visit that we came up with was to invite parents into these celebrations so that we're not only celebrating the students for perfect attendance, but recognizing the family role in getting students to school. So inviting parents in for pizza or ice cream as well. Our Tenet 5 goal was to increase our social emotional development health score on our DTSDE survey, and we're excited as a building to see how those results have changed this year. And it was also to increase our attendance from 93.2 to 94. We are not at 94 yet, but like I said, we're working really hard to get there. But we have been focusing on social emotional health a lot this year. So our PBIS initiative for the year is Pause and Think. So if you come up to any student in the school who's having a rough time and ask them what they could have done differently, they'll tell you, pause and think. They have hand motions, and these signs can be seen throughout our building. This year we also started a social emotional learning curriculum called Sanford Harmony. It consists of 3 major components. So one of them is a very, very short mini lesson every day that focuses on empathy, confidence, relationship building, bullying, and then there's also components such as Meet Up and Buddy Up. So Meet Up is very similar to a responsive classroom morning meeting circle, and the teacher pulls a card out and everyone responds to it. So I know it's very hard to see on the board, but the example is an Abraham Lincoln quote about happiness, and it says, what's something you think about or do that makes you happy even when you're feeling down? And all the students have an opportunity to share with each other. And the Buddy Up aspect is something that students work on in partners. So this is a picture of 2 second graders who filled out a Venn diagram about what's similar and what's different between the 2 of them, and then they shared with the class. We're also focusing on Tenet 6, family and community engagement this year, and our goal was to increase parent involvement in school activities by 20%. We believe we've far surpassed our goal this year as we've had parents in a lot. So we had a very well-attended Veterans Day celebration for family members who are veterans. Over here in the far corner, you'll see a group of Kennedy Caregivers, which is a teacher-led organization that invites parents in to support them with needs they've identified. So the most recent meeting, we had the nutritionist from ShopRite come in and support parents with cooking healthy on a budget. We ate together, they learned together, and it was a really nice experience. There's also photos from Trunk or Treat and from a second grade Thanksgiving feast. In order to bring more parents into the school, we started an assembly series this year. So every grade signed up to do a monthly assembly. So the first one of the year was a third grade art appreciation assembly, and we had 17 parents in attendance. The next assembly was pre-K and fourth grade, and it was a Black History Month American Bandstand show. And we did it in 2 different sessions to accommodate parent schedules. Session 1 had 47 parents in attendance, and session 2 had 34 parents in attendance. We started having potlucks every other month where we invite families in to make a craft together and have dinner together. Our first 2 potlucks happened to be canceled due to snow days, so it had to be rescheduled, and we started out with some fairly low attendance at the first 2, but our most recent March potluck, we had about 60 people in the cafeteria, and it was a huge success, so we're looking forward to continuing those. And to wrap up, I just want to share some exciting things that are happening this spring at JFK. So we are very excited to be receiving Wild Earth, which is a nature-based program where a group of Wild Earth employees come into the school. They're doing 7 sessions of guided recess with our students, so they'll be there for every grade recess, doing activities that are nature-based, so bringing them into the woods behind the school, building, playing, guided activities. And they will also be staying for a 4th grade after-school program on those same 7 sessions. I met with them today, and we're really excited to get that started at the end of April. The next assembly in the series is the Grade 1 Earth Day Assembly. The 1st grade partnered with our music teacher and the gardener from our Hudson Valley Seed and Garden to put on a performance. It's going to be a really great time. Everyone is invited. And on May 17th, the school is getting school-wide trauma training to become a trauma-informed school. So this is a grant that the district has acquired for JFK. We are incredibly excited to start this work. It's one of the #1 things that the teachers asked me for when I first met them starting in August, and we are really excited this is becoming a reality. Here's me in my favorite shirt, Love is my superpower. I just want to say that even on the hardest days at JFK, I absolutely love what I do and the people that I'm lucky enough to do it with. Thank you.
There may be some questions, Mr.
That's fine. Do you want me to stand back up?
This is Jordan, and then David.
Well, I just want to congratulate you. I'm very pleased to hear that even though you had some problems that were identified, that you're doing things and trying things right away. I just really appreciate the high expectation and the creativity and the willingness to try something again and again until you find the right recipe. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad Writer's Workshop is coming back. That's how old I am, it's coming back.
My comments are kind of along the same line as Jordan. It sounds like there's a lot of exciting stuff going on, and I so appreciate that you've just taken it up with all this energy and excitement, and it really shows. And I love the writing, and I love the potlucks. I think that's a great idea, and really the idea of including families in the in the attendance goals is really at that age is really important with little kids. So it looks really exciting, and your enthusiasm is contagious. I did have one specific question about the STAR accountability. What is that, and where is that coming from, and what's the purpose of that?
So the STAR test is something that's given across.
Right, but the accountability form.
So one of the teachers made it herself to help her students realize that this is a really important tool, and it's an important tool to help teachers, to help school leaders, and it really teaches us how to help meet students' needs better and to take it seriously. So she was finding that her students were rushing through the test since it is on a computer. They were clicking, and she was trying to come up with a way to make sure that they understood the importance. And the reports that come from STAR, they're good for us to analyze, but they're not so much student-friendly. So she came up with a way for them to clearly see across the 3 administration periods how they've grown as a student and the amount of time that they're spending and how serious they're taking the test.
And is it for all grades or just?
So the one 3rd grade teacher made it, and we're going to be using it in 1st grade through 4th grade.
Thank you very much.
Just for, not a comment, a question, but a comment, I think we started talking the meeting talking about looking for new building leaders, and we ended last year talking about looking for new building leaders, and 2 of our new building leaders are sitting here, and I'm really pleased, and I'm proud of our process, and I'm pleased with the candidates that we were able to bring to our school district. So thank you, Ms. Jameson. And Ms. Sickles, you got thanked last week. And I too, I think the involvement, I think the conversations that our principals are having when they're coming to the board meetings, I really want to point out the consistency in what they're focusing on. Now, everything's not the same, but they're all focusing on the same things. We have our social emotional pieces. They're working on our tenets for our DSIP, and I think it's important to reaching out to parents. Another really important thing to do when you're having the ice cream and the pizza is to invite the superintendent. just
board.
It might help. So thank you. Okay, next on the superintendent's report, we have our Second Century Project and Mahar update, and our friends from KSQ, CSR, BBL, and Tom.
How you doing tonight, Tom? I'm going to lead off. I'm going to talk about Main Phase 2. Contracts have been awarded and issued to contractors. We're gathering the paperwork to insurances, paying the performance bonds, submittals, doing a lot of upfront work right now in preparation for a start soon as summer vacation begins. And that'll be the focus on the high school, finishing that part of the process. So everything's going well here at the beginning. We're just doing a lot of upfront legwork. I'm going to turn it over to Armand, who's just going to talk briefly about the 5-year capital project and a quick update on that.
Mike, before you hand it over, could you give us a little update on the Turk?
Yes, sure. So, I'm not sure if I was going to talk about that tonight. So, the board a couple months back went forward with the Smart Pioneer program. The design team had designed the turf field already as part of the Phase 2 project. There's some great economics in going with one of the leading turf builders in the country. They've done everything from high schools to Giant Stadium, Foxborough Stadium. So there was a really big vetting process between ourselves and KSQ and Bernier and Arios to make sure they understood the scope, which eventually led to them providing the district with a proposal. Then we went through another layer of vetting the proposal to the original estimate to make sure it aligned with the goals of the district. And they were. They were right on point. I think they're going to be a great partner in commencing that project. For timelines, we're looking at it at the beginning of May, and it should be a 3-month process, so the goal is to have it finished at the beginning of August in time for, I think there's mid-August practice football, there's events taking place. So we're really excited about it because that'll kind of put a bow on that corner of the field. There was grass and sidewalks, but putting the turf field is going to be great.
Thanks. And that resolution is on your agenda tonight.
Remind us again, so how long will this phase of, like, how long will it take to work through opening, and how long is that, it's how many years is that?
So we're going to start here in June, and it'll take 2 years to finish. We're going to start with, if you could picture half the building, we're going to take half the building offline. There's some pockets that need to remain open, but we've worked with phasing of the nurse's office. Once the half is done, we're able to move over to another section of the building and then commence the total with some demolition and abatement, and demolition, and then finish the site work there, some parking, some green. So it would be in the summer of 2021. So when the students return in that fall of 21, that's when they'll see the entire package being completed.
questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
So, Armand, update.
So the 5-year capital plan projects include the work at Edson, Miller, and JFK. We completed the comments that came from the third-party reviewers, so all the technical comments are completed, and Sigrid is really finishing the final paperwork. So there's little nits in that she goes through, which is typical to conclude the SED overall process. We plan to have the permit in hand within the next 2 weeks. And then we're going to be working closely with Tom and administration to map out how to really do the logistics for the next 3 summers.
And Sigrid is the project manager assigned to us from the State Education Department for facilities planning.
You have her too.
She does all of it.
Yeah, she does. We have her for everything.
Yeah, she's our person.
Any questions?
So to work with big picture, once that takes place, then we'll map out the bidding period and when we come to the board with contractors, which will be before the end of the spring.
So you off to Carly, she could talk about Mahar and
Now on
Doug.
to the good stuff. Last time I saw everybody, we had a nice tour of Mahar, got a lot of positive comments. A lot has happened in the past few weeks since then. Next week, we're having the elevator be delivered, and the installation's going to start. It's going to be about 4 weeks, so at the end of the month, it'll be completed. On the second floor, painting is nearing completion. They're going back and touching up some areas that need a second coat here and there. On the first floor, taping is going to be complete towards the end of this week. They're going to follow that with painting. That'll be done in the next few weeks. On the second floor, lighting installation is complete. All the ceiling grid is up. The general contractor is starting to put in some of the border tiles around the rooms upstairs. Tomorrow, actually, we're going to begin to get above ceiling sign-off so we can close up those ceilings. It's really going to transform the space. You'll be able to see what the offices actually look like. You won't be able to see the stuff up above that we're just leaving up there. The bathroom tile is complete on the first and second floors. On the second floor, the plumbing contractor started putting in some of the sinks and grab bars and toilet fixtures. The casework was delivered last week, and on the second floor, they put that in. There's a shelf in the conference room, and then they put in the casework in the small kitchenette outside of the conference room. A lot has begun on the site too. Some excavation has taken place for the sidewalks. They're actually going to be poured later this week is the plan. And then a bunch of the bollards out front have been poured as well, where the new bus loop, small bus turnaround will be, or pull up so they can drop students off. And in the back of the building, the new walkway cover is up. The steel, the roofing is being put on right now. The rough-in is completed for the roof drains, and the light fixtures underneath, I believe there's 2 fixtures. The electrician has to go in and put those in, but that work is taking place as well. This is the walkway cover. It is a little messy back there right now, but they do have all the steel in place, and they're putting the roofing on right now. There is a piece of metal that goes around the whole canopy to tie it all together. Here's the preparation for the sidewalks. Actually, today they started to form up and put some rebar down in this area so they can begin to pour at the end of the week. This whole area is compacted, and we'll be getting testing on the concrete to make sure that it reaches the strength needed to hold, for strength required for a sidewalk, I'm sorry. We also had some slabs poured. This was at the new entrance for the pre-K vestibule when you walk in to what will be the new, or what is the new pre-K office and some existing classrooms. And also a slab that comes into the new district office vestibule. That was not there when you guys came by last time. It was just some dirt outside. Inside the pre-K office, I believe it was just framed when you guys came. This is where the new secretary or the new admin assistant will sit, and this is the new pre-K principal's office. So this has really taken shape in the past 2 weeks since you guys came. And they started painting this today as well on the other side. This is the bathroom tile on the first and second floor. It's identical to what Dr. Catalino has in his office. They started putting in some of the fixtures and roughing in some of the electrical fixtures as well, and they're putting in ceiling grid on the, or they're beginning to put in ceiling tile on the second floor. Again, just some more pictures of the bathroom tile. And they did put in some of the mechanical units that go in each of the bathrooms. This is the ceiling and lighting installation throughout the second floor. The picture on the right, or on the left, I'm sorry, is in the conference room. Those are the pictures that will be above the conference room tables. And the picture on the right is in the second floor corridor outside some of the administrative offices. Some more pictures of lighting and ceilings going on. We did have some doors start to be installed this week and hardware. This is the casework that I was talking about. The smaller single shelf is in the conference room, and this is the kitchenette on the left-hand side. Or I'm sorry, your right-hand side. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
Having gone to the site,
I was there this morning, or this afternoon actually.
no, I mean the board having gone to the site and then seeing your presentation, that the progress is incredible, but also the amount of detail you provide is outstanding. Thank you. These presentations are really helpful. Thank you.
It really makes a difference once you walk through and then you see the pictures. You're like, oh, I remember where that was, and it really
That's exactly what
it
just
makes it a lot
happened.
easier to understand.
That's exactly what just happened. I remember there was a wall there. Thank you.
Have there been any unexpected problems at all?
Not at the moment, no.
You have said on the truth that the building will be ready by the end of
End of June.
June?
Yep.
Okay, that's very encouraging.
Well, then can we do another tour?
Whenever you want.
We don't have a tour before the end of the month.
We can set something up here.
I think we'd like to see what we've heard officially.
Maybe beginning of May we should do something? Middle of May?
End of May. We'll
That's
do that.
perfect. We can plan something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Tom, do you have anything to add?
I always can talk. Actually, our guys have been over there working hard too. All the classrooms, the flooring's done in all the classrooms except for the first one that you go in. It's about halfway done as of today. We're working on the hallway. We were going to leave a tile in the hallway around the music, the reading pit, but we've decided to replace that, so we're going to do that. Cafeteria is completed except for the flooring, and we're waiting for the roof project to do before we put that down. We've brought a ton of stuff over from the accounting departments and the Beth's office from here. And I talked to Mr. Birch today about file cabinets. We are probably going to bring several truckloads of file cabinets over spring break. So we're preparing to get this building into that also. And we're working on the logistics of that. So yeah, we're moving along with everyone else. We're getting it done. So.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, last part of the superintendent's report, we have the teaching and learning team will talk to us about the second quarter report. Oh, so Ms. Bonko and Dr. Belsall.
Good evening, everyone. So at this point in the year, we have really compiled our quarter 2 data. And tonight, what you're going to hear is about how our students are progressing. You're going to see some comparisons from our quarter 1 data, which is really baseline data, and how our students are progressing where they are mid-year. So we'll start with our elementary students. The first slide, I just want to explain that we give the STAR test. You heard Mrs. Jameson reference the STAR testing. STAR is our assessment, is one of our assessments that we use It's given 3 times a school year, and so it's given in the fall, in the winter, and then in the spring. And it measures how our students are performing and how they're growing as readers and also in math. STAR for kindergarten is called early literacy, and that's for kindergarten only, and that STAR encompasses both reading skills and math skills. So this is a fall to winter comparison, so you can see the blue line is the number of students who scored in the early emergent reader, late emergent reader, transitional reader, and probable reader categories in the fall, and you can see there's a very nice growth there's growth between, growth from fall to winter. We have a large percent of our students now reading in the late emergent reader category, which is where we would really like them to see, so there's been a big shift. For grades 1 through 4, we use STAR reading and STAR math, so they're 2 separate assessments. The information I'm presenting is for the district as a whole, but we do break this down by school, by student, by teacher, and this is the kind of information that we work with our building principals to share with their teachers to really drill down and really have an impact on student achievement. So you can see our STAR reading percentages of students that are at or above grade level. We saw increases and growth in all of our grade levels with the exception of a slight dip in grade 4. When we looked at our students with disabilities, most of our grade levels showed an increase from fall to winter. We did see a slight dip in grade 3. And again, that gives us the information that we need to then drill down, determine what skills our students are struggling with, and how best to instruct them. Looking at our subgroups, our Black African American students saw increases, only again a slight dip in grade 4, which was fairly consistent across the district. So we saw that in all subgroups, a slight dip in grade 4, which is something that we're now addressing with our reading specialists. We're working with our teachers and seeing how we can increase those scores in grade 4. And as compared to our white students, and again, similar growth and a very slight dip in grade 4 as well. Our STAR math for grades 1 through 4, we did see for all students, we did see an increase from the fall to the winter administration at all grade levels. We also saw for our students with disabilities, all grade levels saw an increase from fall to winter, and some of the increases are fairly significant, so our students are really performing. And our subgroup of Black or African American students in growth across all of grade levels, and our white students. One of the other measures that we use at the elementary level are the independent reading levels, which is from the guided reading assessments. We use next steps in guided reading, and the guided reading levels are determined quarterly. They now align with our STAR at or above grade level expectations. So you'll see for kindergarten, our quarter 1 and quarter 2 comparison. So if you can see by school, the number of students and then the percentage of students who are on or above the target, and then the students and the percentage of students who are below the target by grade level. So this is kindergarten. We also have first grade, and I do have this for all the grade levels. And then when we work with our building principals, what we do is we really drill down and we look at who these students are, what classrooms are they in, what type of instruction are they receiving, and how are we going to help them achieve. So grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, and then our overall this is for the entire district. So an increase of 7% of our kindergartners reading at or above grade level. And we did see increases in all of our grade levels from quarter 1 to quarter 2 in the percentage of students that are at or above grade level, keeping in mind as well that the target is being raised. So, we are seeing growth. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Bonville for our secondary data report.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to be starting with STAR Math, our STAR Math scores. It's taking grades 5, 6, 7, and 8. You'll notice that all grades showed growth at Bailey, with 5 and 6 showing growth. And the reason I'm looking at 5 and 6 in particular, at both schools, we have added the math and reading block this year. So Deb and Andy and our team, we're looking very closely at our grades, at grades 5 and 6 for both math and reading, and using STAR as one measure. I want to just point out that that's just one way to measure our success. Certainly an important one, but that's something that we are keying in on. And we saw almost all grades at Miller, and again, keying in on grades 5 and 6. These are our special education students at Bailey. If you look at the overall or all grades, we had improvement in this subgroup. At Miller, grade 8 had a very slight increase. And as Dr. Felicello mentioned, and as you have heard from many of our principals, this is the information that we use when Dr. Felicello and I meet with principals, when principals are meeting with teachers, when teachers are meeting with one another in data meetings to further drill down and really look at the reports that STAR offers, one of them being the instructional planning report, and being able to determine what are the skills and what are the strategies that can be utilized to help our students meet with greater success. This is our Black and African American subgroup. Again, grade 5 showed growth. Grade 6, there was that slight dip. And then at Miller, grades 5 and 6 are showing a very slight increase. And again, we're really keying in. It's not that the other grades certainly aren't important, but we are watching that to see if that's making an impact in that reading and math block. And then looking at our white subgroup, there's a slight increase in almost all grades at both middle schools. Moving to STAR Reading, grade 5 at Bailey, showing some growth there, and an overall 1.1 increase in percentage of students at or above grade level. And then at grades 5 and 6 at Miller, showing growth with an overall 2.5. And again, looking at that reading block and determining, is that having an impact in our students, on our students. Special education subgroup, our special education subgroup is showing improvement overall and in most grades. And we're very happy to see that. Looking at our Black African American subgroup, 5th grade at Bailey showed some good growth, as well as 7th grade at Miller. But what this is really telling me, and I talked about this with the Teaching and Learning Committee, is we need to continue to look for culturally relevant pieces for our students. We need to be using our reading software that we've brought in. One of the pieces that we brought in this year was Newsela, or Newsela, as it's called, that has a great many culturally relevant pieces, nonfiction pieces that can be utilized. Actually was suggested as well at our TAC-D work with NYU. So we're looking at that and continuing to utilize that and helping to support our teachers. And then looking at our white subgroup, overall growth in most grades at both schools, also showing improvement. Looking now towards shifting to the high school with graduation. This is our projection as of now. This is our at-risk spreadsheet, or our graduation spreadsheet, looking at where we are currently and comparing it to last year. We are pretty much on par with where we were last year. As far as overall, we were at 81.5 in August of last year. Our white subgroup last year was at 88.8, 76.7 for black subgroup last year. We're still right there. 62.2 with Hispanic subgroup, 75 with multiracial, 70.4 was our economically disadvantaged subgroup last year in August, 72.5 was our special ed subgroup. We are watching that. And 17.4 for our Ls last year. For suspension data, I do have the in-school suspension data, but what I did was I did present that in the Teaching and Learning Committee, and I certainly have that, and I'm going to speak to that a little bit, but I did just pull out the out-of-school suspension. Something that we talk about a lot is keeping our kids in school, the importance of keeping them in the building. So I wanted to just look specifically at that. So in looking at Kingston out-of-school suspension data for quarters 1 and 2, there is a decrease in all subgroups. And just anecdotally, there is also a decrease in the ISS, or the in-school suspension. And of course, we look at the Black and African American subgroup, particularly because of our work with NYU and our disproportionality work. So we've gone from 122 for in-school suspension to 62. And these are incidences, the numbers that you're looking at. For Bailey, out-of-school suspension data for quarter 1 and 2, there are increases in out-of-school suspension in most subgroups. And what this tells me is, when we go back, we look, what are we doing? Where is our restorative justice? You know, sometimes it's looking at individual students. These are incidences. Some of them are repeated. So it's about drilling down and working with those at-risk groups. One of the things that both of the middle schools are doing is they're working with their support team. They're talking about individual students. They're talking about social-emotional responses to their behaviors. So that's something that we need to continue to work on when it comes to out-of-school suspensions. And then for Miller, there's increases in out-of-school suspension in all subgroups. Slight increases in in-school for both Bailey and Miller currently. So one thing that Dr. Felicello and I wanted to end with tonight, or just bring to the table, is the need to really look at how we're looking at STAR and the measure between achievement, scale score. You heard Ms. Jamison speaking of scale score with students making their goals and paying attention to their scale score versus a growth score. So, and this is also something that we've talked about a lot in our Teaching and Learning Committee. How do we really help our kids? What do we do to close the gaps? What's the best way, or what is maybe the most important way to look at what our students are doing? So what we want to do is start to look at a different measure for STAR. And achievement is really just about grade level expectation, whereas growth explains progress over time. Looking at a student when they come into our buildings in September and then seeing where they are in June. And we need to make those database decisions. We need to make those time relevant decisions. So one of the things that we want to look at, and Dr. Felicello is going to talk about it, is the SGP, or the Student Growth Percentile in STAR.
Yeah. So what we're going to be doing, we've currently been looking at grade level equivalence and scale score. Grade level equivalent being how they rate if they're, let's say they're in the first month of first grade, they would be 1.1. So we've been measuring our students based on where they should be based on their grade level, as well as looking at their scale score and for increases in scale score. But what that doesn't address is those students who are maybe not at or above grade level, but have made tremendous growth. And as we've seen when we started to now drill down, and we will be doing that moving forward, looking at student growth, all of our students are making significant growth. They measure it in low growth, moderate growth, or high growth. And our students, the majority of our students, 55 to 60% are experiencing high growth on the STAR assessment. So that tells us we really need to look at our students, what's going on in our classrooms. Some of our students with disabilities are have grown 2 to 3 grade levels in 1 year, but they're still not at or above grade level. So we really want to look at the students and look at how far they're coming and what areas they still have deficits in, and then how we can support them so that we can continue to see growth. So with the SGP, again, all of our students, regardless of their score history and their scale score, they have as good a chance of demonstrating high growth as they do low growth. And it'll help us really understand and measure and look at each child as an individual and be able to work with them in that way. So we're looking ahead. This is what we're going to be focusing on moving forward, as well as continue to look at the scale scores and the grade level equivalency. However, this is a measure that I feel we have been overlooking, and we really do need to drill down and see how our students are progressing. We didn't put questions up, but the question should be the last slide.
Mrs. Bollins.
Thank you, both ladies. Just looking at our ELLs, I know that that's something that we're all concerned with. It's a growing population, and I believe, Ms. Bonneville, you said we had, what, 17.4 is the rate for last year? And I know we're looking at not adding to the budget, but potentially, having to make up a shortfall. Is there any way that we can think of maybe getting creative or doing something? Because I really think that that's an area that we need to address. It's difficult for our personnel with this influx of students.
Absolutely, and we really have been, it seems responsive, but we really have been proactive in planning for our L students, and we've really been watching and anticipating the growth. So some of the things we've put in place at the elementary level were the pilot program that we have at Chambers, where we have grade level combination classes that really focus on, we group our Ls together based on their level of language progression, and so that we can really maximize the support that we provide to them. At the middle level, we've gotten very creative with the scheduling and really looked at 5, 6, and 7, 8 sort of separately because the schedules are so different. And then also implementing the SIFE program at the high school last year, which we're continuing to work with Mr. Reinhardt and Mr. DeSico for planning for next year, and really looking at how can we really maximize the services that we're providing. So we're continuously looking at those students and making sure that our students with the interrupted or inconsistent formal education are still low literacy level students, because they're the ideal for this SIFE Academy program, which is really intensively language focused. And once their literacy levels increase to a point, then we want to push them out into the mainstream. Also, Mr. Reinhardt has done an incredible job with his staff and encouraging them to go back for dual certification in TESOL. So he actually has a very solid core team of teachers who are dually certified and feel more comfortable working with our L population. Moving into next year, we are anticipating continuing expanding our services for 2Ls or to meet our mandates and ensure that they're being served. We were ahead of it, but we couldn't get ahead of the increase in students the way we would have liked to.
I think that is important. Thank you for that clarification.
And then Mr. Michael.
So I really appreciate the move to the looking at the growth score in addition to the absolute score, because I think that will give us much more information about moving kids out close to the line and how are we. So I think that's a great addition. And we did talk about that at TNF, so I appreciate that. Still though, looking at the reading levels, the overall scores are pretty low. And so I that's a concern. And one other thing and you actually raised this, Ms. Bongo, when you were kind of going through the middle school data. there's a pretty stark difference between our white students and our black students. And that slide about middle schools, it was very stark. But it actually, you see it much earlier. So you mentioned things around culturally responsive materials, and those are things that I hope that we're thinking about integrating in the elementary schools also.
We are, yes.
But I also think it has to be a little deeper than that. I think there has to be more conscious attention paid to that issue. And I think it's linked to our suspensions. Like I think it's something that we need to really pay attention to all the way through.
Mr. Michael.
Oh, I was looking at the dropouts for the year. I find the number quite a little bit high, it's around 30%. Is that number includes all the students that left school or that left the district? That's the right. Yeah, the dropouts.
In the cohort.
The graduation projection, I was looking at the dropouts number, 69 of them, they drop out.
Yes, they have left school.
I left the school, probably most of them probably left the district for one reason or another.
That's right.
If they left the district and went to another district, they're not
We don't know.
dropouts for us. The students that we have there that are considered non-completers or dropouts, if you want to call them that, are students that are no longer attending school anywhere.
Mr. Spicer.
Data is data, but I did want to give you guys kudos because of the efforts you put into, massive efforts into disaggregating that data by race, grade, and other demographics, leading to, you said, the creation of math and reading blocks, and also targeted interventions. That's the key to progress. First, figure out exactly who needs the support, and then, as was mentioned already, bend toward tailor making that support toward bringing them to higher achievement. So I think the disaggregation of the data is a profound asset to what you're doing.
And honestly, I mean, it's our entire team. It isn't just Dr. Felicello and I that do it. It really goes down all the way to the teachers. The teachers are pulling reports from STAR where it gets as granular as student to student. They can drill down to skills. They're having those conversations in their team meetings, at middle level, in data meetings throughout the district. Those are the conversations that are, that's the data that's driving those conversations.
Mrs. Jordan.
I wanted to echo Dr. Jacobowicz's comments about I really appreciate you looking into the growth model because I really think that that's going to give us not necessarily more important information, but as important information. And so I think that's a really wonderful step. And I just wanted to say for the board who wasn't at the TNL meeting, that we did talk about the disparity we felt within the subgroups. And Dr. Jacobowitz had brought up a good point in what is the new chapter that you call it?
Guardians of Equity.
Guardians of Equity, that very often when they're discussing how to make things more equitable, elementary schools are not involved in the conversations because they're not talking about behaviors as much. And so I think what came out of that discussion was the fact that there can be discussions about the data in terms of achievement and growth. And so that is as important to address in the elementary schools to see if we can change that disparity. And I think that's going to be helpful if that is carried.
So given that what we're seeing, and again, it is only STAR or whatever, I'm wondering how you are thinking about we have a few pilots, and not pilots, but a few programs in place to help address, math achievement and reading. We've got the reading blocks, and as Mr. Spicer says, and as you guys said, at the middle school, we've got the pilots that are going on Chambers. Are you tweaking what's happening in those places, given what we're seeing? Which, there's some really good growth and some there. So I'm just wondering what's the plan of action given where we are?
So in terms of the reading and math block, not only are we looking, like I said, at STAR, which is just one piece of information, we're also using our APPR information as people are going in, whether it's the principals doing the observations or one of our directors, for example, going in. I have actually been in and observed the reading and math blocks as well. So yes, we are definitely having those conversations. We're taking multiple measures and looking at that as we start to shape next year. We're starting to have those conversations now, looking toward next year.
But are you seeing, like, are you seeing patterns? Are you like, oh, okay, here's where we need to focus, or is it?
Definitely, I feel like it more so in the beginning of the year than maybe what we're seeing now. Some teachers felt a little bit, especially our 6th grade teachers, needed a little more support in the reading and math block, whereas our 5th grade teachers felt a little more, seemed to feel a little more, not all, but seemed to feel a little more comfortable. So we gave them that support. We had our coaches go in. Dr. Sagan, for example, went in several times and continues to go in. So we are watching it, and I would say that we made more adjustments in the very beginning of the year, and now we're kind of looking at what's been happening, and then how do we improve that for next year moving forward.
Okay. And the 7th and 8th grade for the middle schools, especially for Black students, is a little dire. So yes. I'm wondering what the supports are. I mean, because that will be, that's our next high school.
So one of the things that I've charged Dr. Oliveto with doing is taking that information, bringing it forward to her team, particularly Dr. Sagan, to get that information and use our instructional coaches. Certainly have those conversations in our departmental meetings, our data meetings, our team meetings, drilling down to individual students to look at that and to try to raise that mark.
And some of the things that we're doing at the elementary level is what I do when I meet with the principals and when Dr. Oliveto meets with the principals. We're looking at their data not only by school, by classroom, by teacher, by subgroup, and really drilling down to those individual students. We're working with them on what skills those students are deficient in, how to help our teachers best address those skills. Where do we see patterns? It could be, is the curriculum not meeting the needs, and that's why many of our students, if there's a trend that they're not proficient in a certain skill, we look at the curriculum, we revise the curriculum, and then we also provide professional development for the teachers on an as-needed basis and work with the principals to make sure that can happen. So we are definitely using all of the data we have, and I believe in at this point, the best way that we can, and we're really using it to move forward. So when we see something's working, we try to expand whatever is working. When we see something is not working, let's not continue. Let's, how do we need to approach this from a different angle, and what other types of supports do we need to put in place for our teachers and our students?
I just wanted to add one other thing too. In terms of Dr. Felicello mentioned training, one of the things that we have at both middle schools as well are book studies, which are on trauma, but in particular Miller just actually took on So You Want to Talk About Race. And I shared this with the group at TAC-D, Guardians of Equity, that we actually had teachers from all over the district reaching out to both of us asking, can I be a part of the book study? And it really was just intended for Miller, but that's a great thing because things are catching on. The work that Kathy Soletti and her team are doing at the high school, and the work that, it's spreading. And I think that that's good. So at least the conversations are out there and the conversations are happening, and the fact that there was that interest, I think, made us feel really encouraged. So I think that that's a piece of it. Of course, that's not, the panacea for what's going on, but I think that it's certainly a piece of it, that they're starting to have these conversations about feeling comfortable with conversations in their own classes that maybe they wouldn't have taken on before. So I think that that's part of it with the 7th and 8th too, to get them to do more of that.
Absolutely.
First of all, I do want to thank responsible for the comparison graphs being the same scale. I know that was a concern of the committee, so when you have two graphs next to each other, they're the same scale, that's a nice thing, thank you. You know, I think the other interesting piece of data that I think maybe we could talk about later is you talked about, Ms. Bonkley, you talked about the graduation rate, you talked about last year, this year. The suspension rate, we only really looked at this year. I wonder what last year to this year looked, and how that is what our CRE work is about impacting that. So I thought that was, and from elementary to the high school level, I think one of the questions that points that Dr. Jacobus made was it needs to be more than just let's have some books by writers who look like our kids. And I think that I want to point out that it is a lot more. I mean, the culturally responsive work we're doing with NYU is about looking at our policies, looking at our practices, and looking at our curriculum, and making sure that all of those are culturally responsive in our school district. And that's those three things. When we get to those three things, that's the gold standard, and that's where we want to be. You know, our policies, we reviewed. If those of you who've been through this process, our policies, year one, we reviewed our policies. Year two, we looked at our curriculum, our practices. Now we're looking at our curriculum and the things we need to do with our data to see where are those specific places we need to hit. So, you know, it's going to take a while to get it spread through the district like that, but the team that we have has done a lot of work. I think we did looked at a lot of data last time we met with the Guardians of Equity, and I think it was some interesting data and really specific data, and I thank Gary Tomczyk for the work he's done to be able to get us that data. So it is, I mean, it's deeper than just saying, oh, let's get Newsella because they have culturally, diverse, writing. So we are diving deep into what we do and who we are in this to really change how we deliver education, and it's not. I also look at our RTI process and how we've been working on differentiation since for the last 7 years. We've been working on differentiation and making sure our RTI process is targeting on each individual student, so we meet their need, each individual student. It's not this group thing, but we really are. We really want to customize how we deliver education to our students, and that's how we're going to make the big difference.
Any more questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. That concludes this.
Thank you very much. We're moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any resolutions that are interested that pulled from the consent agenda? Hearing no takers, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Yes.
I just want to point out the two resignations that we had on the agenda this week.
Yes.
Kate Heidecker and talk about it, and two people who really served their district well, and I'm very grateful for the time that we had to spend with them, and wish them well in that endeavor.
No, I didn't. I thought I lost it.
No, you didn't. Thank you. Thank you for the comments, and I would like to open up the floor to anybody who would like to say goodbye, the kind words out, people who are leaving.
Who's looking this
Hi,
way? We
Becky.
have all the people who are leaving here.
Somebody too.
Yeah, Mr. Reinhardt will be under new business. His letter came in after the agenda went out.
Yeah.
I did it with Dr. Jacobo and said.
Okay. Echo. They'll both be serving this. And our loss. The Sorority's game, here comes Mr. Reinhardt.
Well, and there's both of those, both Ms. Reinhardt and Ms. Heidecker, people who kind of started with me. Kirk had his first administrative experience when my second year here, and Kate came in as a 2-day-a-week person from BOCES that we then hired and brought her for 5 days a week, and then expanded her role and added another position there. So, we've got a couple of positions to fill that have people who have a lot of institutional knowledge and a lot of experience and have contributed a lot to our district. So, big shoes, a lot of work.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor of the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And we do have a couple of donations. Yes. They're on page 9. Mr. Spicer, are you prepared?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Let's start this part of the board. So we have 3 donations to the district to be accepted at this meeting. J.W. Bailey Middle School is the recipient of a generous grant award from the Community Foundation of Hudson Valley in the amount of $2,000. That's one. Our next one is Edward and Sherry Hickson wish to donate 4 bikes and 4 helmets to George Washington Elementary School. And the last is Mr. Gregory Rogers wishes to donate a speech test to Kingston City School District.
Thanks very much. Very grateful for all those donations.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. And that brings us to committee reports and the Board of Education. And apparently tonight I'm first up with the Facilities Committee. Facilities Committee met very briefly on March 13th prior to the tour of Maher School. And we got an update on the 5-year capital plan. And actually, Ms. Yavadinsky and Mr. Fabrini and Mr. Verlina told you everything that went on in the meeting, with the exception of the selection of furniture for the boardroom. And so we were letting them know our opinion, and the search continues.
We had another consultant in just 2 days ago, furniture consultant just 2 days ago, and working with Ms. Margarita to make sure that we're getting closer to what we want.
And that pretty much sums it up, you know, essentially what they've already told you. And I think we should try and do facilities reports and engagement, just like, you know, I know, yeah, sure. When you get a quarter reports, okay, super.
Just one other comment on the consent agenda, although we were talking about Ms. Heidecker leaving, we also have on the agenda that Ms. Schufelt, who's taking the role there, is moving from her probationary to a permanent position, or term permanent appointment as far as, you know, under civil service, and Ms. Schufelt is here. So, she's waiting through her probationary period.
Okay, and we'll move on to the Audit Finance Committee, Mr. Michael.
Yes, the Finance Committee met yesterday morning. I have a couple of interesting notes. The committee accepted financial reports, the claims report, and also the treasurer's report, which I have put 2 board resolutions. Would like to move to accept it tonight, BOE 59 and BOE 60.
Okay.
Move on this one together. Yes.
Okay, we need a second.
Second.
Good. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, and we'll move on to the Destatings Commission. Mr. Michael, you're up again.
Yes. The State Commission met last week, March 21st, and our stadium manager is doing the day-to-day operations, I guess, as per diem for now until the final agreement is done with the city of Kingston. And also I heard some complaints about the athletic director, where he's in cooperation with Mr. Goodfather, make sure all the spring events are in order without any other, you know, interference. And I guess the agreement with the city would be, it's in the works. Probably, hopefully it happen before my next meeting in April.
I'll do my best.
That's all.
Any questions for Mr. Michael? Okay, and that brings us to teaching and learning.
I love it when we have people in their reports on quarterly reports, because they pretty much did a great, much better job than I ever would have done on the report. So thank you for doing the first whole half. That's pretty much what took up most of the time at our last P&L meeting. We did a very rich discussion about it, as you heard. We discussed a few other things. There's a revisioning of summer school to make it more effective and more efficient. We're seeing a lot of absences, and so the idea is to move to maybe longer days and fewer weeks, which would kind of concentrate the time. What's happening is kids were coming in, and after breakfast and after lunch, there was really only 2 or so hours of instruction. This would allow for more instruction in a day, and then give kids more time off in August or in the summer to kind of allow for family vacations, and it just seems to be more effective and efficient. So that's something that's in the works. I don't know if that's not a done deal yet, is it? Okay, it's in the works. It's in the works. Okay.
It's a done deal.
Pretty much.
It's a done deal.
We had a conversation about the work that's happening at the high school, and again, this was referenced during the presentation that was just given, on addressing racism and disproportionality. They're doing some really great work up there, a book study that's being led by Patty Sleddy and a very committed group of teachers that are really working with other teachers on this issue, and they are going to come and give us a report at some point. I've asked for that because it's great what they're doing, and they're starting to think about how to continue the work into next year, and maybe including some students in the work, which I think would be good. And as you heard Ms. Bond will say, it's catching. So now Miller is looking at it. And then we ended the meeting talking about the kindergarten age eligibility, and something that is still being researched to make sure that our thoughts about moving that age of eligibility back to September 1st is something that is beneficial both academically and for families and financially. So that's kind of in the works.
Dr. Kovich, what would the new summer school hours be?
8:30 to 1:30.
8:30 to 1:30, okay.
And it's till 11, correct?
Now it's till 11.
Currently, it's 11:45 or 5 days a week. K-6 was 5 days a week.
Now it's 4.
No, it was 5 and it's
And
stayed
fewer
5.
weeks.
Okay.
Good. And that's regular?
That's right.
It's, summer school. It's renewal. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And that brings us to old business. Is there any old business that any trustee would like to raise at this point? Old business? Yes, Judge.
I know that we're in the kindergarten registration period, and we're also in the process of registering students for the pre-K program, correct? And so I just had a few questions about how that's going, kind of who's registering. I know that we have talked about really targeting the population in Midtown and kind of around Mahar, and I just want to make sure that we are actually doing that and to ask how we're doing that, and we see where we are.
Do you want to take that, Dr. Kelso?
She's trying. Unless you want to.
No, go ahead.
It's not working. Just change your voice.
Press the button.
Mike.
So currently I'm sorry, I was playing with the microphone, so.
Is that the only one there? Do you want to borrow one? No?
Well, it's not working. So kindergarten registration is currently, now it's working.
It was more about pre-K registration?
More about the pre-K registration. So we've been enrolling our pre-K students. We currently, at this point in time, we have already filled and we'll have to go to lottery for the 35 3-year-olds at GW for next year. Our programs are slowly filling. At this point, we're looking at the anticipated slots that we're going to have for both our UPK providers and for the pre-K center. We also have a series of community outreach events where we are going to be going into the community to register. I've been working with Reverend Childs, and we're getting something set.
April the 4th.
April 4th.
At 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock?
At the point.
Where?
At the point.
A point, okay.
At the point.
It's the point.
1 o'clock, okay. So I've been working with Reverend Childs, and he has some community volunteers who would like to assist us in the registration process for the pre-K students. So we'll be going out into the community. We also have an event planned on May 4th at Casa Via. They have a Cinco de Mayo festival. We'll have a table there. We met with someone from Catholic Charities, and they are going to be passing out our flyer and promoting our program as well at Catholic Charities and all of the events they have at the food pantries. And we're continuing to, of course, use our elementary schools and follow up and make sure that we have a presence at all of our elementary school events and that we're registering our students.
How many do we have so far?
Total?
No, just for the pre-K section.
Just for the pre-K for Mahar, we have 16 completed packets, and that means completed, they have all of the documentation, so they're pre-registered for the Mahar site right now. But we do have interest from others, which we're just waiting. We have to wait until we get all of the documentation that we need from them. So we still have several, and we have several appointments actually tomorrow for registration, and we're going to continue to, so it's going well.
And are we reaching our target population?
As of right now, yes, we are.
I have a question about the immunizations. Are we following the rules diligently? I know it's coming up, the immunizations, it's a problem recently, so. Yeah?
Yes, and I think, 2 years ago, I made a big speech to the board about this, that we were, Mr. Verge, I think Mr. Verge and our school nurses, a lot of credit, 2 years ago, we really rounded this whole thing up, and they really rounded this whole thing up and made sure that, the students that were not, did not have their immunizations, they worked with the county, made sure that the county was ready to administer them. They really got our students, got us to a place where we needed to be. I mean, it was a little scary prior to that.
What is scary that measles outbreak now is all that.
So we are, and again, I think our school nurses and Mr. Birch, working together to make that happen, puts us in a good place to rebuild.
Can I just ask a follow-up on that, because I was maybe bringing this up under new business, it might not be just pre-K related, but yes, being from Rockland County, I'm concerned about this measles outbreak, but what are we doing with undocumented students? Like, I know you and Ms. Stevens have done yeoman's work as far as getting our immunizations in line, but how do we handle that with the influx of people who are coming in? Do we know?
In terms of getting the documentation, we enter those students right away. We're required to do that, and that cannot stop us as a school district from registering them and allowing them to attend school. That's clear. They do have additional time to provide documentation than the 30-day rule, especially if they're from out of the country. So then it's just a team effort, whether it's the nurse, social worker, or any other supports we have at registration. Just, most of the time it's usually the family following up with actually having to get the immunizations versus providing the actual proof of immunization. That's usually the route that is taken.
And that's something that we would help with, get them to a clinic,
Yes.
whatever that would be. Okay, thank you.
Any other old business? Yes.
It's just, sorry, this is a quickie, but got a call this morning with I think spring sports starting. We're getting a lot of these. The flag at the girls' softball field. I know we had spoken about getting one there, and then I just got a call from, 2 calls actually, from softball parents. I don't know what the status of that was. So maybe that's something we just put on the list.
Yeah, so I'll find out the status of it. It's definitely the plan, as you know, we've told you previously that that would be part of the plan for this spring. So I'll have to follow up with Mr. Silverstein, but there was no doubt a flag was planned to be put up on the Burke field, I believe.
Correct.
Yes.
And they,
Just following up on a
they may
parent
have remained to the
request,
ground to fall to dig
Could
the
be,
ball
yeah.
with the cement and
I will follow up.
I'll let them know, thank you.
Any other old business? Moving on to new business, first thing I'd like to address is BOE 61, I'll read it. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby accepts the resignation of Kirk Reinhardt as high school principal effective close of business June 30th, 2019. I'll entertain a motion. Good luck, Godspeed. All those in favor of accepting Mr. Reinhardt's resignation, signify by saying aye.
Please say no.
Please say no. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. So we've officially accepted, and again, sorry this wasn't on the agenda, but we just got the letter. Okay. Any other new business?
We have one other
Yes,
resolution
there
coming out
is.
of new business for the,
Oh, the NYSERDA.
NYSERDA, yes.
It's on the next page.
Change that to 16.
Okay. The next one is B61, BOE 60.
No, I'm sorry, it's
B60. B60.
It stays at 60, I'm sorry, I'm very.
That's it. B60, NYSERDA. Whereas the Kingston City School District requested technical assistance from New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, NYSERDA, under their new construction program for construction of the Salzman Academic Building, which includes incentives for certain energy efficient upgrades for participation in the program. And whereas the Train L&S Energy Services has performed an analysis of the Salzman Academic Building project, quote unquote, and will perform services in the nature of commissioning scope of services for the project as required by the rules of the program in order to take full advantage of NYSERDA incentives in accordance with the letter proposal dated March 11th, 2019 from Train L&S Energy Services for NYSERDA commissioning as presented to the board at this meeting, which letter is incorporated by reference herein. Therefore, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Paul J. Catalino, the Board of Education hereby accepts the proposal from Train L&S Energy Services for NYSERDA commissioning services at a total price of $31,245 and authorizes the Superintendent of Schools to sign the letter of proposal on behalf of the district. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Good. Any discussion?
Mr. Olson, would you maybe, just as part of the discussion, give a little description of what that's all about?
Before I do, I just want to point out that Mr. Clapper, Ms. Collins, heard your discussion about the flagpole, and I'm sure he's going to be on it.
Tomorrow morning, I've already made a note to myself.
Just passing along the question. Thank you.
He'll also fill in any gaps in this conversation. So NYSERDA, as you know, is a energy division of New York State, essentially. And the incentive that we are likely to qualify for as a result of spending this $31,000 on commissioning is likely to be in excess of $160,000. So we'll purchase this service of commissioning, which is basically checking out the equipment we've done to make sure it's running as efficiently as it's supposed to. And in fact, they'll give us some advice if they don't feel it is. And that will be completed by June 30th. And then after that goes well, you'll get an incentive check from NYSERDA next year. Again, probably in excess of $160,000 for the project. So that's in essence what it's all about.
We do that 10 more times.
Would love.
All right, all those in favor of B60, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. I'll move on to board member announcements. Any board? Mrs. Jordan.
I have two. I know that people feel very inconvenienced and upset that we don't have the polling places that we have in the past, but I really would urge everybody to go out and vote. I know it's not as convenient, but it's really important in terms of our democracy and our school district, so I hope that people will share rides and go out and vote. And the other announcement I have is that the high school is performing Mamma Mia this weekend, so I hope everybody will go and enjoy that.
Opening night tomorrow night, correct? Senior citizens
Yes.
performances.
Today.
Senior citizens today.
That was today.
They were today.
We missed it.
I missed it. Tomorrow. See, I thought it was a senior citizen performance. So, yeah, wonderful, promises to be a very entertaining evening. Any other board member announcements? Okay, we have a coffee and conversation that was rescheduled at the Boys and Girls Club, slated for April 9th. It's a Tuesday evening, and Mr. Kerner has sent out a request for trustees to respond, and so if you want to come, please come out. I don't know, is it 6 or 30? It's at 6. It's at 6 p.m. at the, right, the Boys and Girls Club on Green Boulder. Okay. Any others?
Just a couple of quick ones. We have our second budget forum will be on the 10th here, 6 o'clock. So make sure that everyone knows that. Also, our next board meeting will be next Wednesday, so there won't be the 2-week break. It will be next Wednesday, and that will be a budget-only agenda.
Yeah, one item agenda.
One item agenda, we'll be discussing the budget. Hopefully, by that time, it'll be the 3rd of April. We will have a state budget. We'll be able to have a fully informed conversation of where we are as far as our revenues are concerned, and even be a little different picture that we'll be able to show.
And what time is the meeting on the 17th?
The regular time, 7 o'clock. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, next Wednesday,
Next
3rd.
Yes, the
3rd,
3rd.
not
Is it-
17th, sorry.
Is it 6?
We're at 6, I'm sorry.
We're at 6.
6 o'clock for the budget forum on the 10th, 6 o'clock for the board meeting on the 3rd.
3rd, and then on the 10th, we'll also be proceeding with
Budget
the
forum. Budget forum on the 10th?
Yes.
Yes, budget forum on the 10th, followed by. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Right, any other announcements? All right, we reach the second opportunity for public participation, the same guidelines as detailed at the beginning of the meeting. If there's anyone who'd like to approach the board at this point, please come forward. All right, hearing no one and having no need for a second executive session, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Please come out.